The rhythmic tap of Arya Chen's white cane echoed through the marble corridors of Westfield Preparatory Academy. Each deliberate strike against the polished floor announced the arrival of the 17-year-old girl who had just transferred from Lincoln High. Students lined the hallways, their whispers creating a symphony of curiosity and cruelty that Arya had grown accustomed to hearing wherever she went. Arya carried herself with an unusual composure, her dark sunglasses concealing eyes that had lost their sight at age 10 due to a rare genetic condition. Her black hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and despite the weight of countless stares, she moved with purpose through the unfamiliar territory of her new school. Among the crowd of privileged students, Marcus Sterling stood out immediately. The 18-year-old son of Westfield's most influential family, he owned the hallways with the confidence that only unlimited wealth could provide. His designer clothes and expensive watch caught the light as he nudged his companions, already sizing up what he perceived as fresh entertainment. During lunch period, Arya navigated the cafeteria with careful precision. Her heightened senses painted a detailed map of the room through sound and smell. She could hear the clatter of trays, distinguish between different conversations, and even sense the subtle changes in air pressure as students moved around her. Years of training had sharpened these abilities far beyond what anyone could imagine. As she found an empty table and set down her lunch tray, Marcus approached with his characteristic fake charm. His voice dripped with false concern as he offered assistance, drawing the attention of nearby students who sensed drama brewing. "Here, let me help you get settled properly," Marcus announced loudly enough for half the cafeteria to hear. He reached for Arya's tray with exaggerated courtesy, but his true intentions became clear when he deliberately tilted it, sending a stream of tomato soup cascading down the front of her white sweater. The reaction was immediate. Laughter erupted from Marcus's circle of friends, spreading like wildfire through the dining hall. Some students seemed uncomfortable with the display, but peer pressure kept them silent. Arya sat motionless for a moment, soup dripping from her clothes while Marcus feigned shock and apology. "Oh no, I'm so clumsy." "I guess that's what happens when you try to help someone who can't see what's coming," he said with mock sincerity, eliciting more snickers from his audience. Instead of the tears or outburst Marcus expected, Arya calmly reached into her backpack and pulled out a small packet of tissues. She methodically cleaned herself, her movements precise and unhurried. The silence that followed was more unsettling than any angry response would have been. "Accidents happen," she said simply, her voice steady and clear, "though usually they're less intentional." Her composed reaction frustrated Marcus, who had expected to break her spirit immediately. Some students began to murmur among themselves, noting how she had handled the situation with unexpected dignity. What none of them knew was that Arya had been preparing for moments like this her entire life. When the doctors had delivered the devastating news about her progressive vision loss, her father, Lieutenant Colonel James Chen, had made a decision that would shape his daughter's future. Instead of allowing her to retreat into self-pity, he had enrolled her in Master Kim's martial arts academy. The training had been brutal at first. Arya had stumbled through basic movements, fallen countless times, and endured the frustration of learning to fight in complete darkness. But Master Kim, a former military instructor, had been relentless in his belief that blindness was not a disability, but simply a different way of perceiving the world. "Your eyes deceive," he would tell her during those early sessions. "Your ears, your skin, your inner sense of balance, these do not lie. Learn to trust them completely." Through years of disciplined practice, Arya had developed abilities that seemed almost supernatural to outside observers. She could detect the subtle shift in someone's breathing that preceded an attack, feel the vibration through the floor that indicated approaching footsteps, and sense the displacement of air that revealed an opponent's position and intentions. Her training had progressed far beyond basic self-defense. She had earned her black belt in Taekwondo, mastered elements of Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu, and developed a fighting style uniquely adapted to her heightened senses. Every movement was economical and precise, designed to neutralize threats without unnecessary violence. But Arya had learned something even more valuable than physical techniques. Master Kim had taught her patience and strategic thinking. "The strongest fighter," he often said, "is the one who wins without fighting. Let your enemies reveal their weaknesses before you reveal your strength." As the days passed at Westfield Prep, Marcus and his followers, Connor Blake and Tyler Morrison, escalated their harassment. They would deliberately move chairs to trip her, speak in whispers designed to confuse her navigation, and spread rumors about her supposed limitations. Yet Arya continued to respond with calm professionalism, taking notes in Braille, participating in class discussions, and gradually earning the respect of teachers who recognized her academic abilities. The bullying campaign caught the attention of Elena Rodriguez, a quick-witted Latina student who had observed the situation with growing disgust. She approached Arya after a particularly cruel incident in the library, offering genuine friendship and support. "I can't stand watching those jerks torment you," Elena said, her voice tight with anger. "Someone needs to stand up to them." Arya smiled slightly. "Sometimes the best response to aggression is to let the aggressor expose their own character." Also watching from the sidelines was David Park, a quiet Korean-American student known for his computer programming skills and analytical mind. He had been documenting Marcus's behavior, collecting evidence of the systematic harassment that others preferred to ignore. The three unlikely allies began meeting regularly, with David sharing his digital recordings and Elena providing emotional support. But Arya remained committed to her philosophy of patience, even as the attacks intensified. The situation reached a turning point during a school field trip to the local nature preserve. Marcus had convinced several classmates to participate in what he called a harmless prank, but his true intention was far more sinister. Under the cover of darkness during the overnight camping portion of the trip, he and his accomplices planned to stage a fake emergency that would humiliate Arya in front of the entire class. Late that evening, as students were settling into their cabins, three masked figures approached Arya as she walked alone near the edge of the campsite. They had disguised their voices and planned to frighten her into a panic that would provide them with cruel entertainment. "Hand over your money and phone," one of them demanded in a deliberately rough tone. Arya paused, her head tilting slightly as she processed the situation. Despite their attempted disguises, she had already identified each voice and recognized their familiar cologne and breathing patterns. Marcus's expensive aftershave was particularly distinctive. "I don't have much money with me," she replied calmly, making no move to comply with their demands. When Marcus reached out to grab her arm, Arya's training finally revealed itself. In one fluid motion, she stepped aside, caught his wrist, and used his own momentum to throw him hard to the ground. The technique was so smooth and effortless that the other two attackers barely understood what had happened before Marcus was groaning in the dirt. Connor rushed forward, but Arya had already tracked his movement through sound and air displacement. She pivoted, deflected his clumsy tackle, and struck precisely at a pressure point that sent him stumbling backward, gasping and clutching his chest. Tyler froze, suddenly understanding that they had gravely underestimated their intended victim. His voice shook as he tried to back away. "This wasn't supposed to happen like this." Arya turned toward him, her voice carrying a cold edge that none of them had heard before. "Marcus, your cologne gave you away immediately. Connor, you always breathe through your mouth when you're nervous. And Tyler, you have a distinctive way of shifting your weight when you're uncomfortable." Did you really think some cheap masks would fool someone who relies on sound and scent for navigation? The three boys stood in stunned silence, their elaborate prank having backfired spectacularly. Not only had they failed to intimidate Arya, but they had exposed themselves as incompetent bullies who couldn't even execute their schemes properly. Marcus struggled to his feet, his expensive jacket torn and his pride shattered. "This isn't over," he managed to wheeze. "Actually," Arya said with quiet authority, "it is over. Because now you know something about me that changes everything. I'm not the helpless victim you thought I was. I never was." Word of the incident spread quickly through the school, though the exact details remained murky. Marcus and his friends claimed they had been attacked without provocation, but their story had inconsistencies that raised questions among both students and faculty. The truth began to emerge when David revealed his collection of recorded evidence documenting months of systematic harassment. Elena had also been gathering witness statements from students who had observed the bullying but had been too intimidated to speak up previously. The revelation that the quiet, blind girl possessed advanced martial arts training shocked the entire Westfield community. Some students were inspired by her strength and resilience, while others struggled to reconcile their preconceptions about disability with the reality of Arya's capabilities. Principal Victoria Hawthorne called for a comprehensive investigation into the bullying incidents. The school board, already under pressure from parents concerned about the toxic environment, demanded immediate action to address the situation. During the formal hearing, Marcus attempted to portray himself as the victim of an unprovoked assault. His father, prominent attorney Richard Sterling, brought in legal counsel to defend his son's reputation and threatened the school with lawsuits if proper disciplinary action wasn't taken against Arya. But when the evidence was presented, including audio recordings of Marcus planning pranks and bragging about his harassment campaign, the narrative collapsed completely. Tyler, overwhelmed by guilt and fear of legal consequences, corroborated the documented evidence and provided additional details about incidents that hadn't been recorded. "I was wrong," he admitted during his testimony. "We all were. She never did anything to deserve what we put her through. Marcus convinced us it was just harmless fun, but it wasn't harmless at all." The hearing became a catalyst for broader changes at Westfield Prep. Marcus was expelled immediately, while Connor received a lengthy suspension and mandatory counseling. Tyler, who had shown genuine remorse and cooperation, faced a shorter suspension and community service requirement. More importantly, the incident sparked conversations about assumptions, prejudice, and the treatment of students with disabilities. Many faculty members acknowledged their own complicity in ignoring obvious signs of harassment, and new policies were implemented to create safer environments for all students. Arya found herself thrust into an unexpected leadership role. She was invited to speak at assemblies, participate in diversity panels, and help train staff on disability awareness. Some attention made her uncomfortable, but she recognized the opportunity to educate others and prevent future students from facing similar treatment. Master Kim visited the school to demonstrate adaptive martial arts techniques, showing how traditional fighting methods could be modified to accommodate different physical abilities. His presentation challenged many people's assumptions about what was possible for individuals with visual impairments. "Strength comes in many forms," he explained to the assembled students and parents. "Arya has learned to transform what some see as limitation into extraordinary capability. She sees with her entire body, fights with her mind as much as her muscles, and demonstrates that the human spirit cannot be defeated by circumstances." As the school year progressed, Arya's circle of friends expanded beyond Elena and David. Students who had previously ignored or avoided her began seeking her out, drawn by her intelligence, humor, and quiet confidence. She joined the debate team, where her analytical skills and unshakable composure made her a formidable opponent. The martial arts program that Master Kim established at Westfield became hugely popular, attracting students with and without disabilities who wanted to learn about adaptive techniques and mental discipline. Arya served as a peer instructor, teaching newcomers the basics of situational awareness and self-defense. During the spring semester, Arya received an invitation to speak at a national conference on disability rights and education. Her presentation, titled Seeing Beyond Sight, addressed the importance of challenging assumptions and recognizing the diverse strengths that all individuals bring to their communities. "When people look at me," she told the audience, "they often see limitation before they see possibility. They focus on what I cannot do rather than discovering what I can accomplish. But true vision has nothing to do with eyes and everything to do with understanding, empathy, and the courage to look beyond surface appearances." The conference presentation led to additional speaking opportunities and scholarship offers from prestigious universities. Arya's academic achievements, combined with her advocacy work and unique personal story, made her a highly sought-after candidate for competitive programs. As graduation approached, Westfield Prep selected Arya as the valedictorian speaker, recognizing both her academic excellence and her transformative impact on the school community. Her speech challenged the graduating class to examine their own assumptions and commit to creating more inclusive environments wherever their futures led them. "Today we leave this place changed," she told her classmates, "not just by the knowledge we've gained from books and lectures, but by the experiences that taught us to see each other more clearly. We learned that strength takes many forms, that courage can be quiet as well as loud, and that the most important victories are often won not through force, but through understanding." The applause that followed was sustained and heartfelt, representing genuine respect rather than polite obligation. Many parents and faculty members were visibly moved by her words and the journey that had brought her to that moment. After graduation, Arya enrolled in a prestigious university pre-law program, planning to specialize in disability rights and civil liberties. Elena and David remained close friends, with Elena pursuing journalism and David developing accessibility software for people with visual impairments. Master Kim's adaptive martial arts program continued to grow, eventually expanding to other schools in the district. The techniques and philosophy he had taught Arya were now being shared with hundreds of students, creating a ripple effect of awareness and capability. Marcus Sterling, meanwhile, faced ongoing consequences from his expulsion. Several colleges rescinded admission offers when they learned about his disciplinary record, and he was required to complete extensive community service and counseling before being considered for enrollment elsewhere. The experience forced him to confront the privilege and prejudice that had shaped his worldview. Though the process was difficult and humbling, it ultimately led to genuine self-reflection and a commitment to making amends for his past behavior. Years later, Marcus would write a letter to Arya, acknowledging the harm he had caused and expressing gratitude for the lessons her strength and dignity had taught him. Though they would never become friends, his genuine apology represented personal growth and the possibility of redemption even after serious mistakes. For Arya, the challenges at Westfield Prep had been painful but ultimately transformative. They had forced her to reveal capabilities she had kept hidden, stand up for principles she valued deeply, and discover leadership qualities she hadn't known she possessed. The girl who had entered those marble corridors as a transfer student seeking only to complete her education had become an advocate, teacher, and inspiration to others, facing their own struggles with adversity and discrimination. Her white cane continued to tap its steady rhythm wherever she went, but now that sound represented something different. It was no longer just a navigation tool for a blind student moving through an uncertain environment. It had become a symbol of determined progress, quiet strength, and the unshakable belief that every person deserves to be seen for who they truly are, rather than what others assume them to be. The story of Arya Chen reminded everyone who knew it that the most profound victories are often won not through dramatic confrontations, but through the daily choice to respond to cruelty with dignity, to meet ignorance with education, and to transform personal challenges into opportunities for positive change. In the end, the halls of Westfield Preparatory Academy echoed not just with the sound of her cane, but with the lasting impact of a young woman who had taught an entire community to see beyond their assumptions and recognize the extraordinary strength that can emerge from what others might perceive as limitation.